Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of English Everyday Podcast, where we make English learning fun and don't feel like studying. I'm Sophia, your host.
Hi, listeners. And Sophia, I'm really excited about today's topic because it's something I think everyone struggles with, whether you're just starting to learn English or have been studying for years.
Totally, Jeremy. Here's a question for our listeners. Have you ever learned a new word, thought, oh, this is easy, I'll remember it forever, and then when you try to use it, it's gone? Like it just vanished into thin air?
Oh, that happens to me all the time. I learn a word, practice it a few times, and then when I try to say it later, my brain freezes. It's like I know the word is in there somewhere, but I can't find it.
Same here. It can be so frustrating. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about why this happens. Why is it so hard to remember words? We'll share some fun tips to make learning and remembering words easier and, as always, break down some key vocabulary at the end of the episode.
And trust me, you don't want to miss the vocabulary segment. Marco will highlight useful words or phrases from our conversation and explain them in a simple way so you can use them in your daily life.
As always, don't forget to grab the PDF from today's episode in the description. All right, let's get started. So, Jeremy, let's dive in. Why do you think it's so hard to remember words?
Well, for me, I think the biggest problem is I don't use them enough. You know, I'll learn a word, maybe write it down or say it once or twice, but then I don't practice it again. And if I don't use it, I lose it.
That's a great point, Jeremy. One of the main reasons we forget words is because we don't give our brain enough chances to really lock them in. It's like trying to learn a new dance move. You can't just watch it once and expect to remember it forever. You have to practice it over and over again.
Right. But here's the thing. Even when I do practice, I sometimes forget. Like, I'll learn a word, use it a few times, but when I need it in a real conversation, it just disappears.
Ah, that's super common. It's because your brain is like a giant library with millions of books. When you learn a new word, it's like adding a new book to the shelf. But if you don't organize the library or check out that book often, it's hard to find it when you need it.
So, technically, my brain is like a messy library?
Well, kind of. And learning a new language is like adding a whole new section to the library. It takes time to organize everything.
That's such a cool way to think about it. But how do I organize my library?
Great question. One of the best ways to remember new words is through repetition. The more you see, hear, and use a word, the easier it is to remember. Think of it like building a path in the forest. The more you walk on the path, the clearer it becomes.
Oh, so like when I hear a song on repeat and suddenly I know all the lyrics without even trying?
Exactly. Music is a great example. Repetition helps your brain create strong connections.
What else can I do to remember words?
Another tip is to connect new words to something you already know. For example, if you're learning the word delicious, think about your favorite food. When you picture that food, say the word delicious.
Okay, let me try. Sushi is delicious.
Perfect. And here's another idea. Practice words in different ways. Don't just read them, say them out loud, write them down, use them in sentences, and even draw pictures.
Wait, draw pictures? How does that help?
Well, when you draw, you're using a different part of your brain. It makes the word more memorable because you're creating a visual connection.
That sounds fun. I should start drawing my vocabulary words.
You should. The more fun you have while learning, the easier it is to remember.
Okay, but what about words that look or sound similar? Those always confuse me. Like accept and accept.
Tricky words like those can be hard. The best way to learn them is to study them in context. For example, you could write a sentence for each word. I accept your gift, and everyone is invited except John. Seeing them in a sentence makes it easier to remember their meanings.
That's a great idea. I think I'll start writing sentences for the words I struggle with.
That's a smart plan, Jeremy. And remember, don't be too hard on yourself if you forget a word. It's completely normal.
Oh, absolutely. All right, listeners, let's get into the fun part. Vocabulary time. Marco, take it away.
It's vocabulary time with Marco.
Thanks, Jeremy. Let's go over some of the key words or phrases from today's conversation. Repetition. This means doing something again and again. For example, repetition helps you learn faster. You can use repetition when you practice vocabulary, grammar, or even pronunciation. Context. This is the situation or sentence where you use a word. For example, it's easier to remember a word when you see it in context. Always try to learn words with example sentences. Disappears. This means something is gone, like magic. For example, the word disappears from my mind when I need it. If you forget a word, don't worry, it's normal. Try using these words in your own sentences this week. Remember, practice makes perfect.
Thanks, Marco. Those are super helpful. Okay, before we wrap up, let's share a few more tips for remembering words.
Great idea. Here's one I like. Try using new words in a conversation as soon as possible. For example, if you learn the word amazing, tell someone, "You look amazing today."
That's a fantastic tip. And if you don't have someone to talk to, you can talk to yourself. Describe what you see around you. For example, my coffee is hot, my notebook is on the table.
I do that sometimes. It feels a little silly, but it really works.
It does. And don't forget about apps or flashcards. They're great for quick practice throughout the day.
Oh, and one more thing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you use a word wrong, it's not the end of the world. Mistakes help you learn. Language learning is all about progress, not perfection.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you learned something useful and had fun along the way. Remember, it's okay to forget words sometimes. Learning a language takes time, but with practice and patience, you'll get there.
Yes, and don't forget the tips we shared today. Repetition, using context, making connections, and practicing in different ways. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, share, and subscribe in case you haven't. We'd also love to hear from you. What words do you find hard to remember? Share your thoughts in the comments.
And if you're about to sleep, check out our playlist to help you learn faster. Listening while sleeping is one of the best methods to learn English. Check the link in the description or just simply click this middle screen. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.